This is going to be a little bit of a different video. This is going to be kind of like watch me figure stuff out, code along with me, a few twists and turns probably. I was working on my personal website not too long ago, and I was mucking around with macros and stuff in the container, and I thought, I think this is kind of interesting. And so what I'm going to show you here is the power of Laravel's macroable trait, the container, and the fact that you can figure anything out. I think that's the most important thing that I want to tell you is you can just go look in the source code. Documentation is wonderful and amazing, but you can also just dive into the source code and figure out how to do something. So this is going to be a little bit out there. I don't know if I would necessarily recommend exactly what I'm about to do, but why not? It's my own personal website. I can do whatever I want. So let me show you what we're working with here. This is my website right here. This is what we're going for. I've got an article here called What If You Tried Hard that just lives on aaronfrancis.com. And if you click on it, it just takes you to aaronfrancis.com. Pretty basic. I've got an article here that lives on github.com, and if you click on it, it takes you directly to github.com. So I've got this concept of internal articles and external articles. No problems so far, but let's take a look over here and say that an internal article is an article where not null markdown file. So everything's driven from markdown. So if there's a markdown file, then that's an internal article, and we'll say that an external article is an article where null. And here is where it gets tricky. So if I were to return, let's just dump out route article.show of internal. That should be okay. So if I dump that out, you see aaronfrancis.com.test, what if you tried hard? Good enough. Now, if I route to the external, it makes up this URL that simply doesn't exist because it should link out to github.com, or in this case, planetscale.com, not to aaronfrancis.com. All right, so you see the problem, right? I just want to call route article.show and pass the article in and have the URL end up correct, but Laravel doesn't support this out of the box. That's fine. We don't need to go on Twitter and complain. We don't need to ask a bunch of questions. We can just figure it out ourselves. Let's see how we do that. All right, I am first going to command click into route to see how this routing helper works. It looks like it defers to something called app URL route, and I can't click on that because I don't have Laravel IDEA, I think is what it's called, installed. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna dump it out, and we'll see that we have a URL generator. So now if I come over here and I paste that in, URL generator, now we're in here, and if we look back at the helper, this is the URL generator part. The URL generator is bound into the container under this alias of URL. So we need to look at the route method on that URL generator. If I can spell it correctly, we go down to route. There we go. So this is, let's confirm. This is gold right here. You always just put a DD here. That's how you debug these things. So now all right, we're on the right track. Going back to the URL generator, this is where I start to look in and think, is there anywhere that I can hook in? Is there anywhere that I can affect change from the outside? So looks like this does a get route by name. I think we'll probably end up in here. Yep, we're in there. And so then it defers to this to route. So let's go down to to route. And I think we should be in here now. Yes, we are. So then this does a bunch of different stuff. And then down here, so this is collecting up the parameters, resolving route model binding. It's doing a bunch of stuff here. So if I then dump out parameters down here, what do we have? We've got that article. Okay, that makes enough sense. Then this defers even further to route URL 2. So if we click in on 2, we are now in this route URL generator class. So we're several levels deep at this point. And this is where it actually Yep, this is where it actually, there we go, route URL generator 108. So this is where that URL actually gets generated. It looks like it does some query string stuff. It does the domain here. All right, usually Laravel gives us a place to hook in, whether that's some sort of static configuration method or something in the container or some sort of optional method on the object that's being passed around. I don't see that here. I don't see that anywhere here. It looks like there's nowhere to hook into. There's nothing that is called on the actual route itself. And so there's nowhere that we can sneak in and modify this behavior. So I think the question is, where does this route URL generator, this class here, can we decorate it, extend it, hook it somehow? So if we go back out here and we come down, come back out here, you'll see this route URL 2. So if we command click on this, well, shoot, that's newed up right here. So it's not even pulled out of the container. It's actually just a new class that's being instantiated. So we can't override anything in the container here. We're gonna have to figure out a little bit more of a brute force / hacky way to do this. Because that route URL generator is newed up inside the class instead of being pulled out of the container, we can't really touch that. So we're gonna go up a level and look at the URL generator. So we're in this URL generator class and we know that this gets resolved out of the container. So if we hop over to the app service provider, we can say this app extend, and we will just extend the URL. We can actually just extend URL. And if we come in here, this should be an instance of URL generator. And if we dump this out, hopefully we'll have access to that. So now we have access to the URL generator that is bound in the container, and we can kind of do whatever we want. Now this is where we're going to go off the beaten path a little bit. I think the most proper pattern-friendly, solid design principles way to do this would be return a new URL decorator and pass the generator in. And you know, sorry, I don't want to do that. My goal here is to never tell you exactly what you need to be doing, but more kind of show you how I do stuff and hopefully teach you how to think about things yourself. I don't want to do this. You may want to use a decorator. That's fine. I don't like decorators because then you have to proxy everything, and then anywhere where URL generator is hinted and you pass URL decorator, you're hosed. So I'm going to do it a different way. My site, my video, I'm going to do it a different way. You don't have to do it this way, but it is kind of interesting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to return my own URL generator. So let's come out here and let's create a custom URL generator. And what I am going to do is say that extends Laravel's URL generator. Okay, so now if I come back here, we can return new URL, or new custom URL generator. And you see the problem now, we have to pass through the constructor args. So if we come over to the constructor, we see that these arguments are passed in, and they're set, and are they protected? Bummer. So we don't have access to those from the outside, but look, URL generator is macroable. One of the greatest things that Laravel has ever done is make almost every class macroable so you can add methods from the outside. So let's do something a little bit verboten, which I think means bad. I'm not entirely sure. URL generator macro get constructor. This is wild. I bet people do not like this. Get constructor args. Return. So what are the constructor args? I think it's this routes, this request, and this asset route. This refers to URL generator. So now we're inside that URL generator instance, and even though it's protected, we have access to that. So routes, request, and asset route. Let's just make sure that that's right. Routes, request, and asset route. Routes, asset route, and request. So we are good to go. So now inside of here, we can spread that out and say generator I'm just going to copy and paste get constructor args. And now we should have, there we go. We're working again. It is working again, but now importantly, we are using our custom URL generator, which means we've got the hooks. We can do whatever we want. So let's do something that we want to do. What did we want to do? I think we wanted to muck about with route. That was probably, let's do toRoute. So if we take toRoute and we come back to our custom URL generator, public function toRoute, yep, and we'll do the classic, haha, we win, we're in. Now, let's take a look at what route actually is. Route is illuminate routing route, okay? Where does that come from? So we've got the article URI. Do we have parameters yet? We don't have parameters yet. So where do those parameters? Yep. We don't have parameters yet on the route, but do we have parameters here? We do. So we have the article, we have the route, we're in good shape. Now what you could do here, what we could easily do here is we could say if route easily, and then I can't even do it. How do we get the name of this route? It's probably routing route. So let's go ahead and hint this just for now, routing route, and then we say name, get name. All right. So does that give us article.show? So we could do this. I don't like this. You may like it, and that's fine. You do you. Article.show, then we could do that. Okay? And we could say, if we're in here, all right, so if parameters instance of article, then, okay, we could say if parameters, if let's say is null parameters, which is now article, if is null parameters, what's it called? Markdown file. Boy, you can see why I don't like this. Return just parameters. I think it's called external URL. I messed something up. There we go. That would work. That would absolutely work. So if we go back to our web, you see, and we can do internal and external. It works. It totally works. We have an internal article routing internally, and we have an external article routing externally. This is good. This is not great. Let's make it great. We always want to make it great. So this right here is nonsense. This is way too specific to that route. So we're going to comment that out. And what we're going to do instead is we're going to look at this route here. Actually, we can go to route down here. This is the actual route object, and yes, it is macroable. So we can add a class or a method to that right here. So let's say it's actually this guy. So we can say, what do we want to call this? We can add any sort of method that we want. Let's say generate routes using, nope, not routes, that seems bad. Generate URLs using, and we can pass through a function that accepts an article. That seems cool. And then we can say if, well, let's just go back here. Yes. Let's take that guy, come out here. If, well, we don't need that. This is now called article. and generate URLs using this function that accepts an article. Let's simplify FQN. If it's null, if the markdown file is null, return the external URL, otherwise return null. And that's going to be our signal that we just want to fall through to Laravel's routing. So if we come back to custom, isn't this fun? This is why programming is so fun. You can do whatever you want. Let's carry on. All right, so we're back over here. This is not gonna work anymore. It's gonna blow up in a couple different ways. Generate URLs using doesn't exist. You're gosh darn right it doesn't. If we come back to the app service provider and we do another little macro, route macro, generate URLs using function, function, and I think this is the callback, or maybe callable. I don't really know. Yes, so that is the closure that we passed to that made up function earlier. So now what do we do? Now, where do we put this callback? Well, I've got an idea. Let's come over here and say, I don't know, we can make a weak map. We could say public, well, let's just make it protected for giggles. Weak map, generators. Does that work? Okay, so we're still good so far. And then let's do public function add, let's make this, Yep. Static function add generator, I think. Callable, no, callback, yes, and route. And I think this should be, yep, that should be a route. And then if we say DD here, excited about it, we can come in here and say custom URL generator, add generator for this with callback. Hooray! And did we get everything we needed over here? So route and callback. Hooray! Great! This is going really well. Honestly, I thought this was gonna go a lot worse. Okay, so now in the weak map, if I can remember how to use weak maps whatsoever, static generators, offset set, route, callback. Did that do anything? Must not be accessed before initialization. God, I hate it when that happens. It is an easy fix though, so I can say static generators. I think it's question equals new weak map. So that's gonna set it if it doesn't exist and ignore it if it does. And I think this can actually just be array syntax. I think that should work. Okay, so we're back on track. What we have done here is instead of just using an array, we've used a weak map, and that will allow us to set an object as the key, and it won't hang on to it. If it should be garbage collected, it'll let it go, but it does allow you to set an object as a key, which in this case is pretty important. Now, the fun stuff. Let's come down here and say if static generators offset exists, if the route exists, then let's see if that works. Hooray! So we have registered a callback for that route, and we'll say that URL equals call user func, this guy. We can, at this point, we know it exists, so we can just call it like that, call user func. And what do we need to pass through? We probably need to pass through the parameters, just like that. And I think we probably, I don't know that they're guaranteed to be an array there. So if we come out here, null, that didn't work, but did our callback get called? DD callback. Callback got called. Did it get called with an article? It got called with an article. So think it's probably because it's that guy. So I just want to route the external one right now. Whoa, there we go. Hey, look at that. There is the planetscale.com/blog. So what has actually happened? In this custom URL generator, we said we're going to extend this toRoute function. And in that function, we're going to see if this route has registered a custom URL generator. If it has registered a custom URL generator, we're going to defer to that generator and pass through the parameters. Now, if this generator returns null, we want to fall through to this part down here. So we can just say if not is null URL, return URL. And that way it should still fall through for the internal. So that external one works. Let's go back for internal and see if that one works. Internal, custom URL generator. We did it. We freaking did it. We have external URLs, internal URLs. Everybody's routed to the same spot. I like this because it keeps it all together. So it's not shoved off into some corner of the custom URL generator. It's right here. This is how you generate URLs for this route. I like that I don't have to do any sort of checking to see if it's internal or external throughout the rest of my site. I can just say, give me the route to that article, and it's going to give me the exact correct route, whether it's internal or external. There are a few things that we're going to clean up here in a second, but first, importantly, you don't have to like this. You don't have to like this. If you hate everything that I have done here, that's okay. I'm okay with that. You don't actually have to tell me that, but I'm okay with that. I think the thing that I want you to take away from this is that you can figure anything out. You can figure anything out, and you can make Laravel do anything you want it to do, no matter how bizarre or wacky or hacky it might be. In the real world, I would probably add a single test for this and move on. Because if they change the URL generator, a bunch of my stuff is going to change. I know that. I'm not going to add a test. This is my personal website. The stakes are very low. This is pleasing to me, so I'm just going to leave it as is. Let's clean up a little bit of stuff while you think about all the things that you want to do in your app. Okay, I think the only thing I want to clean up here is this feels a little bit messy to me. I think what I want to do is say URL equals null and then get rid of that. And then just say, yeah, we can get rid of that comment. Thank you very much. And then say URL. I think that should do it. And also for completeness, we need to pass all of the parameters in there. So I think that gives me everything that I want. Yep, that gives me everything that I want. And it's a little bit cleaner, and it still accepts all of the parameters that Laravel is giving to us. That's it. Hopefully you feel confident that you can explore and figure out anything that you need to do. If you want to see more of these more loose form videos, let me know in the comments below. If you want to watch a video on how I generate self-healing URLs that are guaranteed to work forever, I'll put that video on the screen here. Until the next time, see ya.